Now, renowned entrepreneur and researcher with Imani Africa, Bright Simmons, says governments should step up investments in various tourist sites if it intends to pursue further the agenda of the Year of Return. According to the researcher, Ghana has the potential of raking in billions of dollars annually only if it invests heavily in our tourist sites. Karen Dodu has more in this report.
A marketing campaign in 2019 was created to encourage African diasporans to resettle and invest in Africa. As of September 2019, according to air travel traffic, 75,000 tourists are said to have visited Ghana. The Minister of Tourism had earlier projected about $1.9 billion generated from it. Meanwhile, the Ghana Tourism Authority said it invested $6 million in preparation towards the Year of Return. However, researcher with Imani Africa, Bright Simmons, said the investment made by government was misdirected as it focused more on advertisement instead of revamping various tourist sites, which he notes could have earned the country more revenue.
So having had great PR, great advertising, people are now saying that we have top of the mind awareness. The question is that what are we actually selling? And the problem we have is that our heritage tourism sites are in disarray. We had about 64 forts and castles built sometime between 1482 to 1780. Of those, a half are already in utter ruin. Another half of the remaining 34 or so, another half is not really viable for tourism. Remember that all of these sites are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. That means that we have more UNESCO World Heritage Sites, particularly if you add the sites in Kumasi, more than France, one of the world's largest tourism earners, earning almost $80 billion from tourism every year, more than our GDP. So if we have these powerful assets, why are we investing only about $230,000 a year into maintaining these assets? That is a critical point, because you cannot go and advertise something which is not fundamentally being improved upon. And that is our argument. That is why it is not surprising that Ghana does not rank among the top 10 destinations in Africa. And that Ghana is not in the top 10 most competitive tourism destinations in Africa, according to the World Economic Forum. That's a problem. In the Visa Openness Index, Togo and Benin outperform us. This is not allowed. We are in the bottom 10th. These are critical issues that must improve in the next year. We can't wait for a decade. The next year must be the year of correcting the mistakes that have prevented the Year of Return from translating PR success into sales success, or at the very least could hobble it from becoming so.
Meanwhile, Chief Executive of the Ghana Tourism Authority clarified that the $1.9 billion project was based on an expected revenue to be derived from the number of tourists on assumption that they spent $2,500 over a 10-day period.
Beginning of 2019, and we've seen a growth in the numbers in terms of year-on-year comparison. So as of September 2019, there are about 763,000 or so international arrivals. And we use that as a default benchmark, because you understand that if you want to define who a tourist is, per UNWTO definition, anybody who's moved into the country for a period below a year for any other reason can be classified as a tourist. And so we still haven't been able to do the analysis properly of how many people came specific to each event. That is very difficult to do. So once the international arrivals numbers start going up, you can then now clearly see, okay, what is causing this movement? And so you make an assumption. People who do economic analysis will appreciate that economic analysis is based on assumptions. Other than that, we wouldn't take samples.
The Tourism Authority says it is awaiting figures on the travel for January 2020 in order to assess the overall number of visitors that made it for the Year of Return. For Joy Business, Karen Dodu.
Meanwhile, an African diasporan and poet, Kofi Gyamfi, is calling on foreign investors in Ghana to help develop Ghana's economy with their share of profits. According to the author of Dark Girl, Kofi Gyamfi says he believes foreign businesses can do more to support Ghana's economy if they share their profits equally with government instead of repatriating all profits made from the economy.
Wrap up on the Year of Return, some diasporans have been sharing their views on Ghana's business environment. Kofi Gyamfi is US-born Ghanaian and poet. To him, foreign businesses in Ghana must have a mindset of helping develop Ghana's economy by sharing their profits fairly with the state.
There are a lot of foreign people that own here, which is okay with any country, but they should know they should be supporting the Ghanaian any Ghanaian initiative, they should come to this country with the understanding, at the end of the day, I'm here to build up the Ghanaian economy because I'm eating off of their land. There should be nobody that comes here, takes from our land, and then sell it back to us at a premium. That is just rape. That's highway robbery, right? That's how I feel at my core. And it pains me deep inside to see, foreigners come here, pay no respect to the people, pay no respect to the land, go back to their countries and make sure and spend all the money within their communities. As Ghanaians, we must enforce, the government must enforce that the foreign companies that are coming here invest equally, not nominally, not smoke and mirrors, not just saying that, oh, I have a partner, his name is Yao, but then Yao only gets 1%. No, 50-50 if you're going to be on Ghanaian land, you should be giving to the Ghanaian people. And that needs to be highly enforced, by government. I think that's the only way that we grow. Otherwise, we look like we're growing, but we're actually, going backwards.
Says being in Ghana was uplifting experience he always yearned for. He took advantage to launch his latest book, The Dark Girl, which he said was inspired by the struggles of the black woman some 400 years ago. The Dark Girl, he said, encourages and uplifts every black African lady to keep their skins natural.
As a poet, there are some poems that you write, and then there are some poems that write you. This is one of the poems that have written me. So in essence, Dark Girl is to bring to the light, to highlight who we're talking about when we're talking about black women being marginalized across time. So it's very important to be specific that the Dark Girl in particular has had trials and tribulations that she has to go through in order to be here, and she's still going through those tribulations today.
Accompanying Kofi Gyamfi to Ghana for the first time is Joseph Millard, who said Ghana's hospitality industry is just what you expect when on a vacation.
Seeing myself, and from what I've heard from different friends, all of the amenities are pretty much fine. It's what you expect when you're on vacation. So right there, then and there, I don't have much critique, honestly. But the funny thing is that with having friends and with knowing families that I hear, it's even less expensive than I thought beforehand, because there's a lot of visiting different families, a lot of eating inside of homes, and then when we're enjoying ourselves out, we've had some great nights out here.
Brett Duho for Joy Business.
You're watching Business Live. Now, the Finance Ministry has launched an investment account to attract capital for the diaspora in the diaspora. WIAFE was at the launch and has joined me here with some details. George, what's the main reason for this account?
So this is called the Diaspora Savings Account, or nicknamed the Sankofa account.
Okay.
It is more of another tool that the Ministry of Finance is working together with the Bank of Ghana to tap into the diaspora funds. It is said that, for instance, those in the black community in the U.S. have a controlling wealth of about $1.6 trillion. And when the minister said that in trying to engage a lot of these people, it came across that they are trying to find an investment tool, an avenue to try and invest in the country. Going through the bond avenue comes with a lot of restrictions and requirements from SEC and all the rest. And that's why they are actually leading this approach where, together with the Bank of Ghana, they're going to give the broad modalities where commercial banks are going to develop products aimed at attracting capital into the country. And the name will be the Sankofa account. It means that when these monies come in, government is going to hope to look up to this money or actually try and draw down this money to invest in some infrastructure projects here in the country. And basically, so it's just more of an account specifically dedicated to the diaspora, where the Ministry of Finance, the Bank of Ghana, they're going to look at how they can attract capital into the country. The Ministry of Finance launched the account today at the Ministry of Finance.
Now, is it different from that bond that the president
So
has?
as I tried to explain earlier on, issuing a bond comes with a lot of requirements, and also sometimes the perception is that you're targeting the middle to upper class. But it also looks like those in the middle to lower class also have a lot of capital that they want to invest in this country. So the account is more of a flexible approach in trying to attract the capital, unlike the bond where there are certain strict requirements that you're supposed to put in place. And that's why the minister believes that this will be a more of a better approach in trying to mobilize capital from the diaspora. After the launch, I had a little interaction with him about his expectation of this account, and this is what he had to say.
Managing the macros and the fiscals through the past 3 years, and we're also very conservative in what we did for 2020. So we really don't expect, anything untoward, and we will stick to our commitments to make sure that we stay within what Parliament has appropriated for us.
That has always been the challenge of sticking to what you tell investors out there, that you do X and you stick to that.
I don't know. I mean, if you look at, we came in January 2017, and I suppose, we did well in 2017, we did well in 2018. I know we're going to do well in 2019. So if precedent is anything, then that's it. We're going to continue with that type of firmness and self-discipline.
I was going through an IMF staff report, which I know that you're already privy to today already, and they were raising issues about rising debt and possible debt distress.
All right, so you were talking to the finance minister. Now, did you also get a chance to speak with the tourism minister?
Yes, I spoke to the tourism minister, and she was also excited by this. And she believes that one of the critical problems they've been facing in the sector is about attracting or getting the required capital to improve the infrastructure in the sector. And she was so excited that, hoping that this account or this investment product will help address that challenge.
Sector has immense potential for contribution to the economy, but in order to derive utmost benefit from it, you need to also put in some investment. And we know that government resources, there's so much demand on it, so we need to bring in fresh investment. And through this account, we are going to have some money coming in, and a percentage of that definitely is going to go to tourism.
Are you going to play any role in also marketing it as well to let people appreciate the benefit of this account and that they need to bring in the capital?
Definitely we are, because we have already started, as I indicated, through the investment forum that we engage people in. We always talk about investing in Africa. You don't need to come back to stay. You come and visit. This is your home. There's an opportunity for you to invest in the country, in the economy. And I think this account makes that possible. So definitely we'll continue with the engagement. As we continue with the Beyond the Return, we'll continue with the investment discussions with people who come back to visit, and they also include the opportunity to invest in this savings account.
And you yourself at the ministry, are you overwhelmed by what you're seeing in terms of the numbers? And some have said that if these numbers are anything to go by, the projection that you even estimated could be even more than that. Are you overwhelmed that it was just a little intervention by government, these things could be turned around in this way?
I'll say that when the project was launched, I don't think anybody expected it to resonate so well with the diaspora. We are all excited by what we have seen. I won't say that it has been an overwhelming response, but as to whether the ministry has been overwhelmed, I won't say we have been overwhelmed. We are excited to receive all these people responding positively by the call of His Excellency the President to visit Africa, to visit Ghana as the gateway to Africa, as part of their heritage, experience what we have, help us to get a new narrative for Africa, and I think it has been good.
I'm talking about even the numbers itself, and not the fact that you have the human resource to handle, but the numbers. And I have been to several events in Accra over the Christmas holidays, and even with the VVIP sections, all of them were full with these foreigners. And the argument is this, just like how it started with the Friday feature, the Friday wear. And that sometimes it's just a little intervention by government, not necessarily capital, that can turn things around. And this is something that going forward.
All right, so that was the Tourism Minister, Barbara Otin Jesse. Now, but George, so how exactly is this account, the Sankofa account, or the Sankofa account, of course, going to operate?
So what the minister tells us now is that it's going to be done by both the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana, and they are going to spell out the modalities for the various commercial banks to tap in. So just like maybe government even issuing a treasury bill, other commercial banks are able to participate. And when the commercial banks are participating to this product, they can also open an avenue for you, maybe your wife outside, your kids outside, to also attract this capital. So in terms of the fine details, they are going to put the announcement out soon. But for now, it's the Bank of Ghana and the Ministry of Finance launch this program and a product and allow the commercial banks to tap into it in terms of how the product will be structured for those in the diaspora to bring in their capital. In terms of where they are planning to direct this money, the minister says they will take it into the infrastructure sectors of the economy. So pull in this capital, invest in the infrastructure sectors of the economy, and the returns are paid back to them.
All right, many thanks for that update, George WIAFE. Away from that, the election years have come with some uncertainties, especially for countries like Ghana. That's which party would win the elections, and would the current government in power be prudent with expenditure? But with all these uncertainties, how do you survive as a business? George WIAFE has more in this report.
To Mr. Dote, despite all these uncertainties, there's a way out for firms and businesses to ensure that they are not badly affected by these developments.
There are circumstances which will occur no matter how well you plan, which are beyond your control. And I'm saying all that requires is for you to then begin to adjust. What do I do in these circumstances? So let's take the dollar to cedi. Yeah. There are some people who actually pegged their plan at 6 cedis. End of year. Yeah. So as a result, much as the dollar inched past 5, they were not that bothered. They will be bothered as soon as it begins to cross 5.5, and they are like, hey, our benchmark is going to be in the crystal ball predictions that I made at the beginning of this year. One of the things I said about the Nigerian economy is it depends on whether or not the dollar, the cost of crude oil goes above or below 60. Because I just picked the Nigerian budget and looked at it, and Nigeria is very important to me because that's about 20% of our economy as Africa. So whatever happens to Nigeria, Egypt, and South Africa is important to what happens to Ghana. And then we shouldn't treat Nigeria as if it's just any other country. Now, if Nigeria budget, I've scanned through it and I realized over 80% of that whole budget is based on crude oil, and the crude oil price for the budget was $60. Then I begin to watch what happens to the dollar price. Because that what happens to the dollar price is what will happen to the Nigerian economy. It's as simple as that. Same thing when it comes to gold or cocoa or timber and oil now for Ghana. So these are significant factors you need to look at and monitor by the day as you listen to the news, how these impact on the economy and how that trickles down to your businesses.
He's also been talking about how firms should position themselves to deal with regulatory measures as well as political interventions. Should strategies and business plans be rigid or flexible? That's what Mr. Dote has to say.
You look at political issues, which of them wins, and when they win, what are their political inclinations?
Let's now turn our attention to one of our top stories today. Finance Ministry, I beg your pardon, there's some developments in the oil market where Brent crude is expected or is set to have shot up because of the crisis in the Gulf region. We're being joined on the phone lines by the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa, for his input into this particular development. Duncan, you're welcome to Business Live.
Emmanuel, good evening to your cherished viewers.
Now, I believe you are privy to the latest development in the Gulf region where the U.S. is supposed to have killed an Iranian general in Iraq. And what would be the impact of this particular development on countries, especially net importers of oil countries like Ghana?
Well, Emmanuel, it is to be expected that as a price taker country, a lot of what happens in the Middle East, the Gulf Cooperation countries, would have a certain direct impact on us, so far as Ghana continues to remain what you would call a price taker country. What we do basically is to take oil from across the globe, and so whatever impact exists as far as pricing or international market price situations are concerned, expect it to have a certain impact. It was sad to hear as of this morning that there's been a certain attack on the Iraqi second in command. That clearly is an attack that, if you ask, is quite needless. You expect a certain retaliation from Iran. And mind you, the world's oil, almost 50 to 60% of the world's oil production passes through the Straits of Hormuz, which is under the control largely of Iran. And so once you go destabilizing Iran to the extreme extent of even killing the second most important person to the Iran Republic, then you are setting up a stage for a certain knockout effect as far as the world production numbers are concerned. Mind you, fuel prices deal basically with the demand and supply factor. So whereas demand continues to remain in the region of 100 million barrels a day, any instability in the Gulf region would effectively see fuel prices or petroleum or crude prices soar. Because at the end of the day, if you knock out even 20% of what the Gulf Cooperation countries are putting out there onto the market, what you will get is that demand would outstrip supply. And that eventually will translate into higher prices as far as petroleum products are concerned. I'm talking of your petrol, diesel, naphtha, and the others. So what has happened today, if I were a Ghanaian policy maker, I would be a bit careful to also start looking for alternate sources of revenue as far as the state revenue is concerned from petroleum, because prices may end up soaring within this first quarter of 2020 because of the instability that we're seeing as far as the Iranian-American tensions are concerned.
I mean, would you say that it's an opportunity for emerging countries, emerging producers like Ghana to take advantage of the situation to increase revenue?
Emmanuel, if you have Ghana, your output is under 200,000 barrels. Saudi is putting out about 10.8 million barrels. Iran is doing in excess of 9 million barrels. If you knock out just these two countries, because of the Strait of Hormuz, like I indicated, I do not think that if you even put 10 of the emerging oil markets or producers together, you'll be able to make up for the shortfall. So this clearly is going to cause a lot of tension around the world. So, like you said, within the past couple of hours, less than 12 hours, it's gone up by almost $5. That clearly must send a certain signal. And you would expect that because of the posture of Iran, this needless attack on them probably will be retaliated. And once that happens, you do not expect the Gulf region to have the sort of stability you would need to get the output that is almost 50% of global supply. So clearly, we are in for a certain rough time. The only thing a policy person here in Ghana would have to begin thinking of is how are we going to cushion Ghanaians when world market prices skyrocket as we see.
All right, Duncan, thank you very much. We don't have much time. We have to end here. Thank you very much for your input. And that was Duncan Amwa. He's Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, COPEC. And that's it for Business Life. Many thanks for your company. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. WIAFE. Have a good evening.